and we'll take a look at the Zillow category of processes. And there I have two of them. We kind of talked about them in the architectural diagram. We have the high-level generate property portfolio, which calls a sub-process called generate property detail report. Now let's take a look at the detail report first. This generates a report for any given property. So we'll see that we have a couple inputs. One is this report option spec. The report option spec actually holds all the information which we typed into the dialog that gave us, the options for the email destination, the CC address, as well as whether to have comments or whether to enable encryption. And we also have a property defined as input, and its type is of type property. And note that these two types are actually Java classes in the background that are imported into LiveCycle ES by the Zillow component, which I built in Java and deployed into the system. So they actually introduced first-class data types into the system, which I can now leverage not only from other Java components, but I can also leverage for my workflows. So now taking a look at this process, we do first, we have a decision point. And we take a look at to see if there's an image URL that's associated to the property. And that's defined on the route. So we check to see if that property image URL exists, or if it's equal to blank. And if it's equal to blank, then we get the default image. The default image is stored inside the LiveCycle ES repository. So we click over here on the Resources tab, we can traverse into the repository, and we see, under Zillow, we can see that house JPEG, which is the default image. So if there's no image associated to the property, then we'll get a default one and put it into the report. Or we go load the URL. Now at this point, we actually merge the data that was passed in, being the property, with a template. And this template, once again, is stored inside of the repository. The template is an XTP that's built in the Adobe Designer tool. We then flatten out this form into a PDFA document. And then at this point, we'll quickly jump forward. We do a loop through all the attachments that were passed in. So those attachments, those other URLs I added to a property, this is where we actually loop through them. And for each one, we convert a URL that's passed in into a document object. A document object is the way we pass around large objects in the system, things like images, things like content. And once we do that, we create all these documents, a actual list of them. You can see that at this point, we actually append to this list. So we have a doc list variable, and we use a counter to reference an index, and we pass in this temp doc, which is created via the URL. And once we loop through, we finally get to the assemble, and this is where we actually assemble all the documents together, the attachments as well as the primary report. And we can take a look at the DDX that's being used here. DDX is a language specific to assembler for assembling documents. So if we jump over here, look at the port detail DDX. We see it's fairly basic. We expect a list of documents to come in, and we simply merge those all into one PDF. So this may be a little confusing now, but you'll see the actual output. It'll make a lot more sense, and we'll check that in the email in a minute. Okay, so what we've done with this process is generated a report for a single property, and that's taking the detail page for that property that we merged from a XDP template and appended a set of URL content, a bunch of web content that we pulled from URLs via the assembler service over here. Now this is all being called by the generate property portfolio process, which of course it also loops through all the properties that we initially passed in. So once again, we have a loop here, and here we're actually calling that subprocess. So at this third step here, we're calling out to generate property detail report, passing in the property for this iteration of the loop, as well as the option specification, the email address, and all the additional information that was passed in by the PropertyLister error application. And once we get out of the loop, we go ahead and do an assembly. So we put all those property reports into one. And we at that point too also check to see if that password was specified, or encryption was specified. If it was specified, then we go through a path of using the encryption service to imply encryption, and also specifying a password to use for that encryption. And finally, we rights enable the document as well to allow for comments. And the final step is where we actually send out the email, which we should have at this point in time. So we can check out the to address information passed in from the option spec variable, as well as the from address information, also pulled off from the option spec information. The attachments is the final doc, which we generated through this whole process. Okay, with that, now let's close out of this and go take a look at my Gmail account to see what we have. There we go. That's the latest email. You can download the PDF. And it's password protected. I'll enter in my Sean.Sadler. There we go, we open it up. And we have a PDF portfolio in here. So this is actually the cover page of the portfolio. I can actually go in here and add comments because I've rights enabled this. Actually, I'm in Acrobat right now, so I could do this either way. But if I was in Reader, I could still add comments here. Apologize for that. So I need to activate this. Okay, and we also have two reports in here for the two properties that I selected. Then we see the detail for each one of those. And for one of those, and I think it's this one, we can actually see the appended PTA page, as well as the greatschools.net information about the scholastic scoring of the school as well. And here we go. So for the DeKalb County Oak Grove School, we can see the reading scores, English language arts school scores for the different grades. So here we go. That's our enterprise mashup on the server side. Thanks a lot for your time, and hope you come back again. Thank you.